You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Andopia. Now, Europe is struggling with the pandemic, and the German government extension of measures aimed at curbing the spread of the virus continues. The lockdown won't be lifted until at least December 20. Let's get more on what's happening there from Berlin. Nicole Fröhlich is with our partners DW. She joins me live now. Nicole, thank you for your time. Now, Germany has a pandemic control roadmap for the rest of 2020. Take us through what it will look like.
Well, there is a roadmap on the table, but it's still pending federal approval. The rest of the year is certainly going to look a whole lot like the past 3 weeks. No restaurants, no bars, no gyms, no theaters, because what has come to be known as lockdown light here in Germany seems to, albeit slowly, be showing effect. Infection rates have started to stabilize, so there's no reason really for state and federal governments to swerve off their current path. But in some aspects, there will be adjustments based on the lessons learned so far. We'll see further contact restrictions, more masks in public and in schools. Universities will be urged to take their classes online as far as that's possible, of course, and citizens are encouraged to self-isolate before visiting their families for the holidays. And in order to make that easier, some states will send kids home for the winter break earlier.
Well, Nicole, let's talk about the Christmas and the other festivities. Now, talk about Christmas, New Year Eve's festivities have all proven to be major bones of contention in the debate about these new measures. How much did leaders give in to societal pressure on this?
Well, the whole coronavirus debate here in Germany has at times, and of course always depending on who you talk to, been very emotionally charged. And with Christmas being the holiday that traditionally brings together most families, many of whom have had a difficult year, that aspect of the debate was further exacerbated. Many populist politicians then jumped on the bandwagon, basically portraying the government as the Grinch trying to steal Christmas. Even the man vying to replace Angela Merkel, he's in the Christian Democratic Party. He wants to become chancellor next year, said the state had no business in telling him how to celebrate Christmas. Of course, Christmas is very important in Western society, but from an epidemiological standpoint, people traveling across the country and gathering in big groups is somewhat of a nightmare scenario. Nonetheless, it looks like there will now be a different, more relaxed set of rules for the time between December 23rd and January 1st, a concession made out of fear of losing popular support for the coronavirus measures, which to this day remains quite high, but also out of fear of alienating potential voters, because we have to bear in mind that Germany is heading towards a general election in 2021. Whether or not that will actually be how things pan out depends entirely on how the situation evolves over the coming weeks. In that sense, the messaging is very clear. We have to cut back as much as possible now if we want to cut back on our Christmas celebrations as little as possible.
At the G20 summit, German Chancellor Angela Merkel was among those pushing for a fair distribution of vaccines once they become available. In practice, what will that entail?
Well, the huge problem here is that we don't know. The summit's final communique was quite vague on the topic, a pledge without concrete details, and no multilateral agreements were actually reached. And that is something Angela Merkel expressed great concern about. She now wants to push the process forward by engaging directly with the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, one of the organizations behind the COVAX initiative, which is at the helm of international efforts to find an effective vaccine for all countries. And we might be closer to that than ever. Oxford and AstraZeneca have announced promising trial results this week on a vaccine that is being hailed as the most suitable for the developing world, as it's easy to produce, can be stored in a regular fridge, and has a relatively long shelf life. Plus, and this is perhaps the most important factor here, the companies, Oxford and AstraZeneca behind it, will engage in a permanent non-profit rollout for their vaccine with a maximum price of $3 per dose. The Serum Institute of India says it has already produced 40 million doses of the vaccine, but has been causing quite a bit of confusion by announcing that they would first supply the Indian market before providing vaccines to other countries. And that, of course, goes against the very mission of COVAX and the pledge made by G20 nations, India among them.
Well, perhaps it's because India has a large population and other African countries aren't, if you like, for lack of a better expression, reeling under the effect of the pandemic, perhaps you could say. But it's interesting days ahead, and we hope to unravel it all as we go along. Nicole, thank you very much for these updates from Germany. Nicole Fröhlich is with our partners DW, and as you see here, she joined us all the way from Berlin with details of what the lockdown and the new measures in Germany on coronavirus is looking like.